Good evening, race fans, and welcome back to Season 11 of the Attrition Sim Race Campus Oval Series presented by SM Racing Products. Tonight, we are out at the Concord Speedway, once again up here in Concord, North Carolina, at the half-mile Little Tricky Triangle. This is a speedway that has been on the ASRC Oval Series calendar almost every single season, and only one time have we seen a repeat winner in the form of Benjamin Harst. But speaking of winners who have taken home wins at this track, plenty of them are out in the field right now. Ryan Sabelski, Tyler McRae. Fortunately, no Travis Sukup out here this evening, but there is one driver who's taken home a win here that is very shocking to see on our entry list here tonight, and that is going to be Mr. Brad Ringer, who we have not seen here in the ASRC Oval Series in almost an entire year now. That said, though, drivers are starting to make their way on down to the starting grid, so how about we take a look down there and see how things will be shaken out here this evening. Starting out on the pole of tonight's event in the number 85 McConey Setup Shop entry, that is going to be the 85 of Brian Sabelski. Starting to his outside is going to be the driver out of Chesterfield, Virginia. That's going to be the number 99 of Mr. Tyler McRae. Starting back in position number 3 in his best ever start so far this season, that's going to be the 27 Dirt TV entry of Johnny Bell. Starting back in position number 4 in the E&E Designs entry, making his first ever start here with the league, that is going to be the 81 of Andrew Ibester. Starting back in position number 5, that's going to be league admin Mr. Jason Gardner, rolling it off in the number 93 machine. Starting back in the 6th position, that is going to be the 62 Race Cars entry of TJ Henson in that Bobby McCarty livery. Start back in position number 7, that's going to be the Woo car number 78 of Mr. Derek Murphy. Starting back in position number 8 in the unsponsored 04, that's going to be the 04 of Garrett Barber, who is making his first ever start here with the Oval Series. He used to compete back in the Dirt Series back in 2022, making his return here to the league here tonight at the Concord Speedway. Starting back in position number 9, that's going to be the Advanced Auto Parts number 2 of Patrick Dixon, followed by the number 14 Justin Wilson Memorial entry of Nico Morelli. And then rounding out the field here tonight, that's going to be the 51 of Nick Cashman and the number 4 of Brad Ringer. But unfortunately, it looks like Cashman and Ringer both have not made the call to the starting grid, so it does not look like we will be seeing either of those two drivers out here on the field here this evening. That said, though, still 10 cars here on the track. 100 laps is going to be the distance, and the iRacing.com pace car is off. Brian Sabelski leads them down to the starting line, and green flag up in the air. Green flag up in the air for the first time here at the Concord Speedway, and it's actually going to be Tyler McRae who has the advantage going down into turn number 1, but not quite able to hold on to it. Sabelski is going to be able to clear him back up here and hold on to the lead for lap number 1. A little bit further back in the field, that's TJ Henson trying to make the outside line work for her in that 62 machine, and actually she's not doing a dang bad job of it either. Already up 2 positions from where she qualified in that 62 machine. Looking pretty solid so far this evening. Johnny Bell falling back a couple of spots, Jason Gardner falling back a couple of spots, both from where they qualified. But otherwise, your drivers in the top 3 all looking pretty solid so far on the start here this evening. Side by side, further back in the field, veteran driver Nico Morelli duking it out with returning driver Mr. Garrett Barber, making his first ever start here in the Oval Series. Is trouble. That's the Advanced Auto Parts number 2 down in the inside wall. That's Patrick Dixon. Caution flag's not going to fly for that. He's still got it rolling, but that is some heavy damage on the side of the number 2 machine just like that. It's also going to be costing him about a matter of 3 seconds on anyone else in the field. That's going to be hard for him to make that back up. But no caution flags going to fly for the driver of that number 2 machine. Further up in the field here, the battle up in the mid-pack is where it's all at right now. Ivister, Henson, and Bell all duking it out, and Jason Gardner is really in there as well, trying to see if he can't get around his fellow admin in that 27 Dirt TV entry. Henson sending it down real low into 3, having to drift up a little bit on corner exit, not quite enough to get the run necessary to get around Ivister. But still, setting some really solid lap times. And her personal best so far under green flag conditions right now is about 0.2 of a second faster than Ivister's, but whether or not she can keep that pace going for the entirety of the race is going to be the big question here. This is certainly a race where we need to be keeping track of that driver just behind her, though. Mr. Johnny Bell in that 27 managed to pull off a second place finish at this speedway several seasons ago. He managed to make this entire race without stopping for fuel. Every other driver in the field had to make a pit stop except for that number 27 machine. So we might have to watch out and see if he doesn't try to pull a fast one on the field for a second time here in Concord, North Carolina. That said, looking at the lap times, he isn't that far off the rest of the field, so if he is fuel saving at the moment, it's not very blatant. Things still looking good for that number 27 machine. He is back 3 positions from where he qualified, so he has lost some ground. But for now, I think it's just a matter of waiting and seeing how the rest of this race plays out. We only got 12 laps officially completed here. Still plenty of time left to go. Plenty of times for a whole lot of chaos to unfold around the racetrack. And right now, the best game you can really do is play the waiting game here, especially when you're trying to make a strategy call. A little bit further back in the field, though, Derek Murphy in that Woo car number 78 machine has fallen back a position, lost 1 spot to that 14 of Nico Morelli. Morelli currently up 3 positions, the most improved driver on the field so far in these 15 laps that we've gotten through with here. All these drivers, though, no one's really showing any particular distinct weaknesses here, which is really surprising to see because Concord Speedway is a track where we hear a lot of drivers complain about how difficult and awkward it is to run at, but really everyone's doing a really decent job right now. There is some stragglers further back in the back. Derek Murphy losing a little bit of ground on the 2 cars ahead of him. That's Nico Morelli and Johnny Bell duking it out in the 2 deep red race cars up in front of him. These 2 duking it out is going to allow Murphy to close that gap just a little bit. Morelli and Bell both using a little bit of the apron there, trying to get out as much rotation as possible, but you got to be careful with doing that because if you do it a little bit too much, it's going to really easily upset the balance of the car and end up spinning you out into the inside wall. And trust me, race fans, you really need that not to happen. But speaking of spinning out, not quite into the inside wall, but Patrick Dixon having a little bit of trouble down in turn number 3, and that is a severely beat up late model stock car. That is more than just a little bit of a spin. Something significant has happened to the driver of the number 2 Advanced Auto Parts entry. Let's take a look back here, see if we can't see what quite happened to him there, because that is substantial damage. Already looking down at a pretty damaged number 2 even before going into this incident. He goes down into turn number 2, takes a little bit of the apron there, and it just gets the car upset and a hard impact into the outside wall. I was just warning about that just a couple of laps ago. You can use that apron to get a little bit of extra rotation, but if you're not careful, it's going to upset the balance of the car and make you lose all of your control, and that is exactly what happened to Patrick Dixon coming out of turn number 2 and a massive impact into the outside wall in 3. Fortunately, the rest of the field able to get around him without any sort of trouble. So let's take one more light look back at that. Let's ride on board with the number 2 Advanced Auto Parts entry. It already looks like he's a little bit loose before he even enters too, but getting down on that apron just completely kicked out the rear end of the car from underneath him. So just like that, that might be the end of the evening of the number 2 entry. That's going to be hard to get fixed back up. But we've seen stranger things happen out here in the field, so let's not discount him quite yet. That said, looks like lights should be kicking off on the IRC.com pace car this time by, so drivers should be stacking it up 2 by 2 here. Nope, lights are still on around the speedway. We are going to give it another lap or two under caution to make sure everyone is sorted out right now, but it's looking like our top 4 is going to be Sabelski, McRae, Ivester, and Gardner. Then following them going to be TJ Henson rounding out the top 5, and Derek Murphy back in 6th rounding out row number 3. And as it stands, all drivers should still be on the lead lap here, with the exception of Patrick Dixon, who brought out that caution and is still down on pit lane. That said, though, for all of the praise I've been talking about Johnny Bell and his questionable pit strategies and how he managed to make it a zero-stop race at Concord last time he was here, this time by, he is the only driver to have taken a pit stop under this caution, with the exception of Nico Morelli just next to him. So let's keep an eye on these drivers, see how these differing strategies play out as we take the green flag. Tyler McRae, Brian Sabelski, once again, your front row. Green flag up in the air for the second time here at the Concord Speedway. A much, much better start by... Oh, trouble. That looked like that was Derek Murphy around. Derek Murphy's around, Johnny Bell's around, Nico Morelli's around, and for some reason the caution flag is not flying as these drivers... Murphy electing to take the tow back to pit lane. Bell and Morelli are both still rolling. But no caution flag is going to come out on the speedway. We are keeping it green despite that incident. And now the field suddenly finds themselves catching up to lap cars as Morelli and Bell both try to recover from whatever just unfolded right there. Let's see if we can't take a quick look back and see what exactly happened, because I'm really thrown off by that one. So let's take a quick look back, looking at the restart, looking at Nico Morelli, Johnny Bell, and that pink and green Woo car number 78 as we head down turn number 1. And a little bit of a nudge from behind from Morelli is going to get that Woo car 78 upset, and he's going to collect Johnny Bell. And it looked like also Garrett Barber might have been involved there a little bit. But still no caution flag out on the speedway for that incident. Brian Zabelski still up at the front of this thing now that we're live with a 1-second lead. Then it's a 4-way battle for second right here with Andrew Ivester, Tyler McRae, Jason Gardner, and TJ Henson all duking it out here. And all 4 of these drivers all neck and neck. All 4 of these drivers setting really similar lap times, all keeping up with each other in terms of pace right now. Last time by, it was a 16.34 for Ivester, a 16.31 for McRae and Gardner, and a 16.35 for Henson. So really, all these drivers are keeping up with each other down to the thousands. Really impressive run by all of these late model stock drivers. And it looks like down there we just saw Nico Morelli coming out of pit lane. Looks like he had to take, not the tow, but he had to bring it down there, get some damage looked at. Garrett Barber also making his way out of pit lane, so Barber did get damage out of that incident after all. That's going to be scoring him, looks like about 5 laps down currently. What a difficult situation these drivers have found themselves in, because now Morelli needs at least 4 cautions to get all of those lap backs. Barber needs 9 if he wants to get back up on the lead lap. Derek Murphy still down on pit lane, and it actually looks like Murphy's pit lane timer has ended, so Murphy has actually packed it up and brought that 78 Woo car late model back onto the race hauler. So just like that, that looks like that will be leaving 8 drivers still on the lead lap here this evening. Now, it doesn't look like Murphy or Dixon have officially left the speedway, so they could, in theory, come back out if they wanted to. Right now, those cars are pulled behind the pit wall, so I don't think their chances are very good right now. So that leaves Sabelski, Ivaser, McRae, Gardner, Henson, and Bell as your 6 drivers on the lead lap with 38 laps in the books. Still not even to the halfway point, and we have seen this field almost completely cut in half. I'll tell you what, race fans, that is the Concord Speedway for you. It's a tricky triangle for a reason. Every single one of these corners at a different angle, every single one of these corners at different banking. And the same can be said for the straightaways as well. So every little part of this racetrack is a bit of a different experience for each of these drivers, and it's really difficult to have a car that's properly tuned for all 3 corners. However, whatever Ryan Sabelski's got running under the hood of that thing, he is having a heck of a time here this evening. Let's actually take a look back at just how much of a gap Sabelski has built up here. Riding on board with our race leader, looking back at the rest of the field with a 1.4 second gap between himself and Ivaser. So that gives you a little bit of a perspective of how much those times on the timing and scoring board actually represent here. Call it about, I'd say about 4, maybe 5 car lengths down the straightaway. But that said, Ivaser is actually gaining on our race leader here. So Sabelski is not exactly out of the ballpark yet. Last time by, Ivaser was faster than Sabelski by 0.3 of a second. It looks like Sabelski might have had a little bit of trouble that lap. Because 0.3 of a second, that doesn't sound like a whole lot, but that adds up really quick. And as we cross the line, that time by, a little bit closer to each other, but still 0.15 seconds faster than Sabelski last time by. Sabelski's really got to push if he wants to hang on to this lead over Ivaser. And mind you, of course, Ivaser is a rookie driver, not just here in the ASRC Oval Series, but here in ASRC as a whole. This is his first ever start here with the league in that number 81 E&E Designs entry. And I'll tell you what, he has been putting on a heck of a show here. He had the fastest lap time in practice for a large majority of the practice session. Qualified back in position number 4th, now finding himself up in the front, battling for the lead with a 4-time champion of the ASRC Oval Series. And I'll tell you what, he is closing that gap without much difficulty here. He's got it down to 0.3 of a second, now make it 0.2 just like that. How about we call it 0.1, 1/10 of a second separating himself from our race leader. Sabelski is in trouble, just like that. Going down into turn number 3, Ivaser is going to go way down low, thinking about giving him a little bit of a nudge, not quite. Following him around down into turn number 1, really tried to make the move in turn 2. That would be the place to do it, not quite close enough. Heading back around into turn number 3, Ivaser is able to carry a lot more speed into that 3rd corner than Sabelski is. He's going to make the move going down into turn number 1, way down on the apron, trying to make it stick, a little bit loose coming out. But Sabelski still holds on to the lead for the time being as we go through turn 3 for the final time and put us halfway through tonight's event. 50 down, 50 to go. Sabelski is still our race leader, but he is having to fight tooth and nail to hold off Ivaser, and just like that, it looks like Ivaser is going to be able to get it done. Now Sabelski has a second looming threat just behind him. That is the number 99 of Tyler McRae, a driver who has been duking it out with Sabelski for a very long time now. McRae is not going to let this be an easy top 3 for the driver of that number 85 machine. He is going to be fighting him with everything he's got to throw at him. And Gardner's right back there as well in that 93. Gardner is not out of the question whatsoever. We have 4 very fast drivers up here at the front of this field throwing it at each other with everything they've got, and they've got a little bit of lap traffic to worry about as well. That looks like the 27 of Johnny Bell trying to hang on to the lead lap. As you just saw down the bottom corner of your screen, looks like Garrett Parber is going to be pulling it down pit lane. Not quite happy with how something is handling under the hood of that late model. As IceyToo pulls away and starts to catch lap traffic, though, it's the battle for second, third, and fourth where all the drama is happening here. The battle between Cybelski and McRae. Gardner's right behind, waiting for one of these two to make a mistake. And oh, they're going to make contact. They're going to make contact, and Cybelski goes around. Caution flag out on the speedway. And Jason Gardner actually picked up a little bit of damage there as well in that number 93. Just like that, second caution flag out on the speedway. Now, I'll tell you what, with all these drivers duking it out as hard as they are with each other, at a speedway that is as complex and confusing as this one tends to be for these late model drivers, I am not surprised it inevitably happened. That said, we do have a couple takers down pit lane. Looks like TJ Henson, Tyler McRae, both going to be heading to pits. Andrew Ibuster, Jason Gardner, Brian Cybelski, Johnny Bell, for the time being, still staying out. And I'll tell you what, race fans, Johnny Bell must be a very happy man, because this caution flag coming out means that he will be staying on the lead lap. That said, let's take a look back. Let's see if we can't get a better view of this caution that happened between Cybelski and McRae. Going down into turn number 2, just the tiniest little bit of a nudge. And Cybelski almost hang on to it, almost had it under control, but just slightly at too bad of an angle to get that late model pointed back in the right direction. Let's actually get a top-down view of this incident. Let's make use of that chopper we pay to be up there in the sky. Might as well use that camera for something. I'll even break out the slow motion here. Just the tiniest little bit of nudge behind from McRae. McRae checks up, and that scrapes the left side wall of Gardner just a little bit, but it looks like Gardner doesn't really have too much damage to worry about. But just like that, caution flag number 2 going to be coming out here on the speedway, and we do have a couple more takers down pit lane. Actually, it looks like every driver that is still in this race has elected to come down under this caution, and Bell is actually back down on pit lane for a second time, so evidently he was not happy with how much fuel he got under that first stop. So Cybelski is going to stop for a second time, and that will make him the first driver to make a second pit stop that wasn't involved in some sort of incident here tonight. Definitely an interesting strategy call by the driver of that number 27 machine. Looking at the pit time, it looks like Bell only took fuel under that stop as well. And actually looking at the pit stop times, looking back at that 81, it looks like Ibuster and McRae as well both look like they took tires under this caution. So we're going to be trying this thing once again. A new front row to be working with here. Tyler McRae and TJ Henson are going to be the drivers trying to make the front of this thing work here. Iverson.com pace car is off. Let's try this thing again. Green flag up in the air. Tyler McRae on the outside line on newer tires than the inside line driver TJ Henson. But look at that. TJ is actually managing to keep up with him. Despite the difference in pit strategy, TJ is holding on in that 62. She is keeping up to him. In contact, Jason Gardner makes contact with Brian Cybelski. That's going to send him down to the inside, almost down in the inside wall, but not quite. But that is going to throw Gardner back a position, and now Ibuster is right back in this battle as well. Ibuster as well on newer tires than the rest of these late models in the field. So they've got a little bit of a predicament to be in. It's going to be hard to hold off those tires that Ibuster has, particularly once he gets them up to temp in the next couple of laps. But right now, I don't think any of these drivers in these top 5 care about who's on what tires. All they care about is pushing their late models as hard as they can get them to push, and that is exactly what they are doing. McRae is starting to pull away just a little bit from the rest of the field, but Henson, Cybelski, Gardner, and Ibuster are all nose to tail, just like old times. None of these drivers are willing to give an inch to each other. And Cybelski, despite the incident, Cybelski finds himself back inside the top 3, and he is actually closing the gap on TJ Henson. So Cybelski might just have a little bit of something to offer that number 62. That said, they are both pretty good friends off the track, so I don't know if that will play into any sort of favors here out here on the speedway, but right now Sabelski is out here to win one way or another. IceyToo just behind at the tail end of this field, tried to make a move on Gardner, not quite able to make it happen. That's actually going to make him fall back a position. And all the while, those new tires maybe are not playing as much of a favor to McRae as he was hoping for, because he has fallen back to only 0.2 of a second between himself and TJ Henson here. These new tires are not as big of a game changer as both myself and maybe some of these drivers expected them to be. I figured McRae would have just completely pulled away from the field here, but with 30 laps left to go, Henson is right on his tail. Sabelski and Gardner are both as well. And mind you, Sabelski and Gardner both are also on older tires here. The only other driver in the field that's on these new tires as of the lap, or as of the second caution, is Andrew IceyToo back in 5th, and IceyToo is having a hard time keeping up as well. All the drivers catching up to a lap car there. That looks like the 04 of Garrett Barber, who is once again going to be pulling it on down to pit lane. Not quite happy with how that late model is handling, but trying his best to make something work here one way or another. He finds himself 10 laps down, going to be going even further down under this next pit stop he's making, but he is trying his best to make something happen here. And speaking of drivers making things happen, Andrew IceyToo has made the pass on Gardner here. Gardner a little bit of bobble going down into turn number 3, and that was all it took to get that 81 around him. So now Gardner still holding on to a top 5, but he is on the outside looking in to this battle for the podium of the race. That said, as we cross the line on the lap 75, the clock is ticking here. These drivers need to get this shindig sorted out, because there is not a lot of time left to work with here as we cross the line. Going to be 25 laps left to go here at the Concord Speedway. 25 left to go, and all of your top 5 still under a second of each other. IceyToo now looking to see if he can't make a move on McRae here. Not McRae, on Sabelski here. And he almost had it close enough to make it happen. He backed off of it, waiting for the opportunity to make something happen. And Garrett Barber, once again, bringing that late model back out on pit lane. He is determined to get some seat time under his belt. Hopefully it's handling a little bit better for him in a way that he's a bit happier with. But with 23 laps left to go, unless he stays out for all 23 of these laps and Morelli goes back down onto pit lane, that will be where Barber ends up finishing tonight's event. But any amount of seat time is a good thing to have here, especially with how competitive the drivers of the top 5 are here. Sabelski's going to go for a move though. Sabelski sending it down low. He's going to find himself up inside the top 2 of the race once again. IceyToo is going to follow in his footsteps though. Henson just like that, going from 2nd to 4th in a single corner. But Gardner's going to make the move as well. So Henson now 2nd to 5th, just like that, with 20 laps left to go here on the speedway. Up there on the high line, that is the 04 of Garrett Barber, trying to stay out of the way of our lead lap drivers here. And doing so without too much difficulty, but there is now a little bit of a gap between Gardner and your top 3 drivers here. And that's going to be making it McRae, Sabelski, and IceyToo battling it out for the lead of the race with 19 laps left to go. 18 to go now as we cross the line. And it looks like that is Nico Morelli up ahead, going to be the next driver at risk of being lapped here by your top 3 drivers. All 3 of them coming up on him pretty darn quickly here. But Morelli, the other driver that generally just moves up out of the way, lets these lead lap drivers go by. And mind you, there's no obligation to do that. It's just the sportsman-like thing to do. And sure enough, Sabelski's going to pull it down low, just trying to stay out of the way of this battle for the lead. He wants nothing to do with that. And frankly, I don't blame him. I wouldn't want anything to do with these 3 drivers right now, myself either. 4-time champion Brian Sabelski, 2-time champion Tyler McRae, and a complete rookie newcomer in their first ever start with the series, all within a second of each other, battling it out for the lead of the race with 14 laps left to go here. That said, Sabelski is going to forfeit the position to IceyToo. And let's see, looking at the lap time, Sabelski was about 3/10 slower than IceyToo or McRae last time by. So keeping up with those two drivers might be a little bit difficult here. 13 laps left to go though. The clock is ticking. There is not a lot of time left here tonight. And of course, coming into tonight's event, Brian Sabelski is the championship points leader, but Tyler McRae has won his only 2 races so far this season, and he's looking to try and make it 3 in a row in that Drop-In Bombs race in number 99, and that is going to start to really threaten the championship lead that Sabelski has, because right now, Sabelski is the championship leader over Jason Gardner by 11 points, and then it looks like about 15 points from Gardner to Henson. And then right behind Henson is McRae in the championship standings. A 3rd win to his name would be a very substantial deal to how this championship pans out. And mind you, we're not even halfway in the season yet. Big double high five up in the air though. 10 laps left to go here at the Concord Speedway. Sabelski trying to get that spot back from IceyToo, but not quite the run that he needed to make it happen. Side by side just behind them for Gardner and Henson. These two drivers duking it out for 4th right now. Henson looks like she has the advantage here. But Gardner, he's going to try and make the pass back. Maybe try a little bit of crossover. Not quite close enough to make it happen. But he is getting really close in that number 93 machine. He needs to put all the pressure on her that he can to try and make this spot back. Because again, Gardner is 2nd in the championship standings right now. He needs every finishing position he can get if he wants to contest the lead from Sabelski. And Sabelski is only 2 spots in front of him right now. So this single position between himself and TJ Henson could be a very big deal here. Well, 6 laps left to go. He's got to make it happen sooner rather than later. And he is starting to close the gap here. He's got it down to 0.25 of a second, almost 0.2 flat here as the big high five goes up in the air. 5 laps left to go to settle the score, and Gardner has closed the gap even more, now within 1/10 of a second of TJ Henson, almost making contact with her rear bumper. Gardner's really got to try and make this happen in these final 4 laps. Henson's just doing her best to hold on here. Try and walk away with the top 5, call it a day. With 4 laps left to go though, this is the closest battle on the speedway as McRae and IceyToo begin to pull away from each other. 3 to go here at Concord Speedway, 3 to go to potentially see Tyler McRae make it 3 in a row at this half-mile speedway and 3 in a row for the overall championship. They're going to make contact though. Contact is going to be made between Gardner and Henson, and just like that, caution flag is out on the speedway. We're going to go into a little bit of overtime tonight, race fans. Hope you're having a fun one with this one, because we're going to tack on a couple of more laps than was the advertised race distance here. It's time for a little bit of green-white checkered action. But before we get to it, let's take a look back, see if we can't get a better view of that caution as it came out. Let's take a little bit of look down from our chopper here, get a bit of a top-down view of things. TJ Henson, Jason Gardner battling it out with 2 to go. Gardner sends it down low, and just a little bit of a nudge to the rear end was all it took to get the balance of that car upset. Just like that, to bunch the field back up. And I'll tell you what, it's pretty much all going to be jeopardy for the drivers up in the top 5 now. Unfortunate impact for TJ Henson, and it does look like she's going to bring it on down to pit lane in that number 62. hopefully nothing too serious in terms of damage and she can get back out on the speedway. It didn't seem like too hard of an impact down into the inside wall down there on the front stretch. But we will have to wait and see what we hear from her team, and she's going to be taking left side tires. I hope she has right sides to put on as well. No, she does not. Just left side tires is going to be the call for the driver of the number 62 machine. But hey, I'll tell you what. It's time for a little bit of overtime. And I guess desperate times call for desperate measures. I mean, if you need any little bit of advantage you can get, even taking left side tires may be worth the risk in this 2-lap shootout. So your front row for this restart is going to be Tyler McRae and Andrew Ivester. Then it's going to be Sabelski and Gardner for row number 2. Johnny Bell and TJ Henson for row number 3. But it looks like Henson actually has gone down a lap from that incident. Was not able to get it turned back around before the pace car came by. So only your top 5 drivers, McRae, Ivester, Sabelski, Gardner, and Bell, will be on the lead lap for this green-white checkered attempt. So who knows? The gloves are off. All bets are off. All of these drivers are going to throw everything they can muster at each other in these next 2 laps. iRacing.com pace car is off. Let's see who has what it takes to survive these next 6 corners. Just like that, green flag back up in the air. Tyler McRae, Andrew Ivester rocket down into turn number 1. McRae has the advantage for the time being, but Ivester is looking pretty fast as well. As long as the caution flag doesn't come out. Coming out of turn number 3, we will keep this thing green. Sure enough, we cross the line. White flag up in the air one more time around the speedway for these late model stock car drivers. Tyler McRae, Andrew Ivester, Ryan Sabelski, your top 3. Sabelski is going to go low. He's going to try to make a move. Not quite able to make it happen. There's Jason Gardner. And Gardner's not going to be able to quite make it happen either. Tyler McRae going to be the driver who takes home checkered flag number 3. Third one in a row here this season for the driver out of Chesterfield, Virginia. I'll tell you what though, race fans, that's the first green-white checkered we have had in a pretty dang long time, but McRae is going to come out on top of it one way or another. And maybe rough up that late model a bit in the process. I hope that he has a backup car prepped for next week, because that is not doing that race car any favors. That said though, don't go anywhere, race fans. We will be back here in just a moment with some words with your top 3 finishers. Alrighty, race fans, welcome back to the Concord Speedway. 100 and some bonus laps in the books here tonight for our first green-white checkered finish in a pretty long while. Up here in the booth with me, Mr. Tyler McRae, who has now made it 3 wins in a row this season. How are you feeling tonight?
I'm feeling great. I stole that. Don't call the police on me. I probably only had a second or third place car, and it was a little pit mishap on the other guy's fault. It happens. I've made plenty pit mistakes trying to gamble, and it didn't work. And I was able to hang on to it, which was pretty wild because I couldn't. This car was terrible tonight. I was doing everything I can, wheeling it and slamming on the brakes weird, all kinds of stuff to make it turn right. And but it was a lot of fun. Sorry, me and Brian got together that one time, but we both talked about it and it was over.
Yeah, one way or another, it worked out, and there were some times where I was really worried about you. I wasn't entirely sure you were going to be able to make it happen, but sure enough, it worked out here tonight. Did you ever have any doubts in your mind throughout tonight's race that maybe this wasn't going to be your race?
I had a few doubts that I might not win, but it still didn't mean that I wanted to give it everything I had. And because of that, my strategy had to be to save the right front tire. I don't know, what was it, lap 55 or so? The 81 got by me. And then he started running down Brian. So I started picking up the pace to run him down too. And that's when that caution came out that time, when him and I got together there, which is a shame. But that was my plan, kind of wait till about little ways halfway through the run or two-thirds through the gas run and start picking it up. Um, 50, I think I had 57% left on my right front tire when I pit it. So saving it all I could was worth it. Because you can see Brian, he had a lot of speed and he was running hard. And then his right front just gave up on him, I'm sure.
Yeah, at Concord Speedway in particular, that seems to be a big issue for people, but you managed to make it work here. And next week, heading to Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway. How you feeling? Switching it up a little bit next week.
I feel good about next week. I like that track. I'm pretty good there. This was the track I was like, I'm not sure. And I was going to have to do something special to make it win. I got a little lucky. Um, So I think it's going to be fun, but I think people are going to bring the speed. I mean, look at everybody, bring the speed now and mixing it up. And I haven't raced with that guy Andrew, but he seemed to race pretty clean, and then congratulate me at the end. So he seemed pretty nice. So hopefully he'll come back out too. It's nice mixing it up with everybody. Brian had a good race. It's just tough to save that right front tire. And poor Jason couldn't get around me because I kept running a good line, and I know he wanted to get by me for everything. And but he's a good competitor too and runs hard. So it was a good time running with the guys.
Yeah, well, it's a heck of a win. 3 wins to your name in a row. That should, I believe, put you pretty much in contention for the championship heading into next week. So great work there. But for now, the microphone's all yours, Mr. McRae. Who do you want to thank before you start getting ready for next week's event?
Wait a minute, would you talk about championship already? What week is this?
This is week 5. So
Oh,
next
we got
week's
a little
halfway
ways to go.
point.
I don't know. I just want to keep running and having fun. Hopefully, I can make it out again. But yeah, I definitely want to thank the league. I mean, the league always, I say it every week because it's true. They put on these races, they do a good job. They do the best they can with when people have issues with each other. So I really like that. The broadcast is great. I love it. You put it on YouTube so I can watch it on my TV at home now. So I like it on the big screen and it looks great. I got a 50-inch. It's not that big, but still, the broadcast looks great on there. So that should be, a big clap right there. And then is it S&M sponsoring again? That was pretty cool. I think somebody might have got a button box out of it last season, winning the championship. And just to drop them bomb guys, I messaged them, try to get them out here. Mike's messaging me now. I guess he wasn't racing earlier. I try to get them out here every week, but it's tough. Sometimes they got other things they're doing. And so I just want to make sure I thank those guys and all the competitors. That was a fun race tonight.
Good deal. Well, thank you for coming out. Congratulations on win number 3 in a row. And I look forward to seeing you at Nashville Fairgrounds next week.
I appreciate it. Yeah, looking forward to it. Thanks.
And let's see here. Finishing back in position number 2, Mr. Andrew Ibester, rookie driver here this season. I don't actually believe he is in the ASRC Discord, so we may not be able to get some words from him here this evening, but we will give it just a minute to see if he manages to make his way in here. And then finishing back in position number 3, Mr. Brian Sabelski. Another podium to your name, another crazy race that maybe didn't quite go how you wanted it to. How are you feeling here this evening?
Nah, this one just got away from me. I thought I hit the button to let Tyler know I was pitting in, and I guess I didn't. So that's my mistake on that. I don't blame him for bumping me there. I mean, he didn't. The most he did was just kind of spin me a little bit. So whatever. I'm not gonna throw a hissy fit over that or anything like that. We had some good racing. I think I just didn't have enough tire at the end to really go at it. Andrew's quick. Yeah, he's pretty quick. I think he saved a little bit more tire there on that first run. I kind of burnt mine up pretty bad being out front. But yeah, this is a tough track. It eats tires. But we've got pole the last 2 races. We just need to convert one of them into a win, and this is kind of week 5 here. This is kind of like, for me, it's kind of like the hump. And then now we're going to a bunch of tracks where I feel a lot more confident in being able to make moves and pass and save tires and do all that stuff. Looking at the schedule, what do we got here? Nashville is next week, right? I think the fairgrounds. Yeah, I tend to run well there. Southern National's fun. Stafford, I am coming around to liking Stafford quite a bit as far as track performance goes. USA, Thompson, Oxford, Five Flags, those are all tracks where I feel okay to good at. So as long as I'm going into week 6 with the points lead, I think I can, and think I might be able to actually do some work here.
Good deal. I don't entirely know what the points are quite yet, but I'm pretty sure you're still holding on to it heading into next week.
Yes, I think so.
That'll at least start you off on the right foot, and I know you definitely have been picking up just a bunch of bonus points every race, so you still have that going for you too.
That I do. So that's the hope. That's the dream. We'll just keep chipping away at it here and see if we can hold on. I know I've got more wins than me, and I think given the pace of the season, I think I can actually. I think I've got the pace to beat Tyler here. So eventually, one of these is going to work out right for me, and I'm going to be able to actually do what I want to do.
Well, you said it here yourself. Got a whole 6 weeks of tracks that you feel pretty confident about yourself in, and sometimes just having that knowledge behind your back can make a big difference.
Yep, and if it's one of those things. If I don't, oh well, I'll do the best I can.
Sounds like a decent plan to me. For now, though, the microphone's all yours, Mr. Sabelski. Who you want to thank for making it all happen?
Thanks to the Marconi Setup Shop, the official setup shop of eNASCAR. Once again, great team there, helping get everything together. Got that car looking nice. We'll get her back to victory lane here in due time. Also want to thank SM Racing for sponsoring ASRC, putting on the league, and Jason for doing the admin work. Everyone for showing up tonight. That's about it. I gotta go. I gotta get some rest. Thanks to everyone hanging out in chat. Good to have you here. We'll see you next week.
Good deal. Well, thank you for coming out, and I look forward to seeing you in Nashville.
Yep. See you then.
So you heard it here first, race fans. 2 of your top 3 finishers, at least, unfortunately, not able to get words from Mr. Andrew Ibester, rookie driver, walking away with a podium in his second ever league start. That said, before we sign it out for the evening, how about we take a look down at the rest of our race results here tonight. Tyler McRae, of course, making it win number 3 here this evening, followed by rookie driver Andrew Ibester and 4-time champion Brian Sabelski rounding out the top 3. Back in fourth and fifth, going to be two league admins, Mr. Jason Gardner and Johnny Bell, rounding out fourth and fifth positions, followed by the number 62 of TJ Henson back in position number 6. The Justin Wilson Memorial number 14 of Nico Morelli back in 7th. Rookie driver Garrett Barber in the 04 back in 8th. Followed by the Woo Car 78 of Derek Murphy back in 9th. And the Advanced Auto Parts number 2 of Patrick Dixon rounding out the top 10. And of course, the other two drivers unfortunately unable to attend here this evening. But that will be Nick Cashman and Brad Ringer rounding out the rest of the field here tonight. That said, though, that is all we have here from Concord, North Carolina for round number 5 of the ASRC Oval Series presented by SM Racing. Next week, we cross the halfway point of the season at the Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway. Same day, same time, Monday night at 10 p.m. Eastern. That is bound to be one heck of a race. But for now, thank you all for tuning in, race fans, and we look forward to